Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
Cynthia Cloud had never ran for public office before being elected as Wyoming State Auditor in 2010. In November of 2014, she was re-elected for her second term, and she's the first certified public accountant to serve as State Auditor. We'll visit with Auditor Cloud and learn about the functions of her office. And we'll also visit with her about something very personal, the unexpected death by suicide last spring of her son Connor. It's next on Wyoming Chronicle. And we're pleased to be joined on Wyoming Chronicle by Wyoming's auditor, Auditor Cynthia Cloud, the only CPA to have ever held this position. Auditor Cloud.
That's correct.
Welcome to Wyoming Chronicle.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for visiting with us. You grew up in Alabama.
I did. I grew up and graduated from the University of Alabama in 1991 with a degree in accounting, and went on from there and went into public accounting. And every job that I've held in my career has prepared me for this office.
How did you get to Wyoming? You and your husband both were from the South.
Right. My husband grew up in Montgomery, so he has the Montgomery accent.
Mm-hmm. There are different accents, are there?
Yes, different accents. But he was born actually in Reno, Nevada, and he always wanted to move out west and come back. And I consider it his midlife crisis, decided that he was going to come out west and relocate our business and bring our children up in a better environment than what we were in Alabama near Birmingham.
And the business at that time was a family-owned gas station?
We had an Exxon station, a convenience store, and we now just have an automotive repair shop, Technical Cowboy Automotive, in Cody, Wyoming.
Okay. You found yourself then in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. You operated a business, but then you ended up in politics. And you told us off camera that you just hate campaigning. Why on earth did you decide to run for this office?
Well, I knew that with my background and in public accounting and my skill set that I had a lot to bring to the state to provide, to give service to the state of Wyoming. And as an auditor, I would send in my audits to the Department of Audit. And I thought that the auditor was the Department of Audit at the time when I was preparing the audits, and thought, wouldn't that be neat to be the state auditor? So I always had this in the back of my mind of that would be an interesting job. And I waited in 2010, ran for office, and or thought about running for office.
And you had never ran for office before?
No.
Much less a local office, and now we're running for a statewide office.
Right. And so I waited, and in March, I decided, March 23rd, that I would know there was not anyone else that had filed, and decided that I would put my name in the hat and tell my grandkids one day I ran for statewide office. Never in a million years would I have dreamed that I would have been successful and been able to serve the state in this capacity, and it's been just a wonderful opportunity.
Let's talk about your campaigning just a little bit. Of course, you had every county lined up with the chairperson.
Oh, no.
And all.
No, that was no. It was myself and my husband and a few select people, and every campaign sign that you saw stuck in the ground, rather than probably five or six, were from my husband and myself. And I would walk into a room, and I did not know, people around the state at that time, because I was new to politics in the state Republican Party, and so I wouldn't have any friends to go to. And so now I think if I get broke down in a county, I can call this person, because I know people around the state now. But it was very challenging.
You weren't, or you didn't consider yourself to be a great public speaker.
Right. The first time I spoke in public was in Basin at one of the Lincoln Day dinners there, and I just failed miserably in the second week. It was in Thermopolis, and I remember Representative Korberg at the time helping me off the stage and saying, "Wow, Cynthia, you were much better this week," and I just knew it was just bad. But I improved steadily and have really improved that part of public speaking, and I couldn't eat. I would shake for 15 minutes before and after, just nervous about having to get up and speak. So, but that's much better now.
And you enjoyed that campaigning so much the first time you ran again for re-election in 2014?
I loved my job the first time so much that, I really really enjoy the office and the duties of state auditor. I ran one of the largest IT systems in the state. And with my background in public accounting, I've been able to really make some improvements in the state with my skills that I've had.
Let's talk about some of those. And I know that you're concerned that you're just going to bore people to death about the nuts and bolts of what happens in the auditor's office,
right.
But I think people really are interested in what it is that you do. What did you find when you became the auditor, and how have you progressed?
Right. Well, I found that we have a very technologically advanced system. We've had the same system since 1989 that has a bad perception for not really meeting the needs of state agencies because of the way we use this system. We would do technological upgrades, is what they call, and so our business process, how we did business, is still back here in old technology, but yet we have a new technology, and so they're not matching and meeting. And then after a period of time, it has came to a point where we're stuck and we can't use the technology that we have because of our chart of accounts. They're set up wrong. We haven't locked down and defined terms like when to use a unit, why you use a unit. We have different agencies using the term unit for different things, for different purposes. Well, how can you report as a whole on a state if the foundation of your chart, they don't mean the same thing? There's not consistency there. So we're working on a project right now to modernize our chart of accounts, to be able to lock down and define those so that we can use our reporting system and be able to report consistently across the whole, and use roll-ups and technology in our system, do cost allocation properly, and just start really using what we have. And so that's the biggest challenge that I have found is change management and just leveraging and getting value out of the system that we have.
When you started, you were telling me earlier that the payroll system was here,
yes,
and the accounting system was here,
right,
and forever or for never the two shall meet.
Right, exactly. That was the attitude was, well, why in the world would we want them to talk? And I knew from my background that systems are integrated. Systems, you want them to talk. It's efficient. It saves time. And so now, after 6 years, we are coming to the point where they're integrated, and it's a seamless automation to get the payroll information over to the financial package there. And so we've worked hard on that. It's just we've done a lot of passwords, reset passwords on employees' ESS passwords. Those were all manually having to be, if you forgot your password, and I pushed and finally broke through and said, we will automate this process where they can do it on demand. And so that's another example of things of efficiencies in using technology.
These what's striking, and I think some of us forget, it's not just entities here in Cheyenne you're talking to. This is all across Wyoming. How do you do your training? How do you reach out and get everyone on similar pages with such an enormous geographical hurdle that you have to clear?
Right. Well, we do have users of our system. They retire, they leave, they get new job duties, and so training is a big aspect of our office. And so one of the goals that I set was that we would modernize our training, and we would elevate our training, provide excellence. One of the platforms that I ran on was excellence in financial reporting, and so training those individuals. And so we've revamped it from where you put it in the system to what you put in the system and why you're putting it in the system. We've changed it from 8-hour classes to 2-hour classes. We've created, using Google hangout so that those agencies out in the field, like at the Honor Farm or at a DFS location around the state, can access and have the same training without having to come here. So we've brought efficiencies into that area as well. I've brought back pre-audit. That's another example. Before, that was a push down to the agencies, and we thought there needed to be more internal control. First week, we found a $400,000 error where someone fat-fingered $440,000 for $44,000. So we were able to get that corrected. So little things like that make a big difference in the operations of our office.
You were told prior to coming on board that this was a turnkey office and that you really didn't need to do much.
Right. Right. But so I was nervous. Coming from public accounting in the private sector, I was, well, what will I do if everyone's doing everything for me? What will I do? And but I can tell you, I hit the ground running, and there's just so much to do that I don't see how we can do it all in the remaining 2 years. We're actually pushing really hard for that. So.
You are one of the 5 elected officials in the state that hold statewide office, 2 of which are female. Mm-hmm. But the legislature is represented very differently. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that, Auditor Cloud, and the lack of female representation in the legislature and what it means?
Right, I have thought about that. I believe that having more women involved in politics, or in the local level, or in the state level, or in the federal level for that matter, is very important, because we represent 51% of the population with that. So it's been disheartening to see the number of women that have been elected and serve in our legislature for those issues that do come up that we need to be addressed and have a different perspective on. But fortunately, we have 3 ladies coming into the Senate, and I believe 9 to the House this time. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and I would like to see not only representation in our government, but key positions in state directorships, agency directors. We need more women in those roles. We need more women in judicial roles as well. So there's a wonderful opportunity for women in government.
You serve as the comptroller and payroll officer, essentially. Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, how many payroll checks do you write every month?
Oh, we have about 9,900 employees that we do the payroll for.
Almost 10,000. Mm-hmm. And tell us really who those are. It's not just division heads. These are inmates and other folks like that, correct?
Inmates. It could be patients for the hospital, Evanston Hospital patients. That for those, it could be Boys and Girls Club students. For that as well. It just varies. It's just, but we're very proud of the fact that with that many employees, we only have about 300 people that aren't on direct deposit. So we're doing well there with efficiency.
Helps with that automation. Mm-hmm. You were reelected in 2014. You have 2 years now remaining on your term.
Right.
What are your top end goals? What is it that you really want to do now in the time that you have remaining?
Right. Well, there's a laundry list of things to do. I don't know if you can see, but I have files of projects that I have accumulated and have documented, things for us to do and research on those items. And so one of the top priorities that I have that we're in the process of doing is that modernization of the chart of accounts. And so that will be finished up in January for the documentation of that. And then we will go into actual implementation to our next upgrade for our financial system. We'll go to 311, and it's going to be it's not a technological upgrade this time, it's a business process, how we're doing business in the state, and a technology advancement. So it's going to be a lot of change management on that, but I'm excited. It'll be really good for the state. I'm excited about the efficiencies that are going to come from that.
You have talked often too about transparency in public reporting, and you've worked very hard to make your office more transparent. What do you hear from people from around Wyoming on what is it that they want? What does transparency mean to them? What is their definition of wanting access to public records, et cetera?
Right. Well, I would say that we deal with various entities, from individuals to school districts to governmental entities, and they all want different information. So transparency to a governmental agency, like a school district, they want information. They want on their payments and things like that. They want detail of their payments for information. A public would want transparency on, they want to know information on how much water, say, an agency purchased from a particular vendor. And so we do our best to accommodate those requests in our office and provide expediency in getting that necessary information. Other things that we try to do is provide information on our website for all the check runs that we do. Money is a factor. One of the things that I have been trying to work on is getting, and the information we have on our website for the payments, we keep 90 days of payments of transparency for the state. That's very difficult because there's a lot of backroom processing for confidential data like HIPAA and things like that, Social Security numbers that we can't put on the website. We have to cleanse that. And so that's very time intensive to provide that data. But there's software out there that other counties are using, like Open Checkbook, that would ease that and make it more efficient and provide more detailed information. And that's a direction that I would like to see us go, but the funding available has to be there. So that's a challenge to balance the cost and the benefit and communicating to the legislature, well, how's that going to save money?
Because it requires spending money and budgets are tight,
yeah. So it's a challenge, but that's the direction that I would like to see us head as a state for that.
You're also having an initiative now where you hope to adopt new rules on public records requests, and which pertains to fees, costs, and charges for public records inspection.
Right.
What is that process, and how is it matriculating along here?
Well, this is our first foray into rules making. Our office to this date historically does not have any rules, and so we were quite shocked to find out that we had to pass our own rules for our own agency. We thought we could, A&I passed it, Administration Information Agency, and so those are the rules, but no, we have to pass our own rules. So we're disheartened that we have to pass this and now have a rule. But with that, it just gives the ability. There are some requests that come through that are very time intensive, requests that go back 1989 forward, and that information is not readily accessible, and so that will help offset some of the costs. But it's not an offensive charge for that. I mean, I think it's a reasonable, small, minimal cost for that to do that.
Yeah, you want it to be defined.
Exactly. And our goal is to provide the information expeditiously and with customer service, and provide the information requested. And
the public can still comment on that at this time.
Absolutely, and we encourage you to come to our website and comment on that as well.
Okay. Auditor Cloud, we have discussed prior to this interview something now that I want to take our viewers to, and it's very personal. And you've agreed to visit with us about that, and that is the death of your son Connor last March by suicide.
Right.
First of all, our condolences are heartfelt, and I'm sure everyone in the state of Wyoming feels the same.
Right.
But how courageous of you for you wanting to talk about it.
Well, if I can save one child from the lifetime of heartache that our family will experience, and friends, then it's worth it. It means that his life could have meaning afterwards. That's my goal.
How what is it that you want to tell? Have you found therapy in talking about it almost?
Absolutely. I think I talk about it as much as anybody will listen to me about it, because you love talking about your child. You love talking about the past and things, and sometimes people don't want to upset me, or that's just part of it, you know. I just have to roll with, yes, I may cry but I want you to ask me about, you know, my child and everything. So, but if I can save one parent from having to go through this, you know, my child, Connor, told 3 people that he was going to do this starting on the Wednesday before the Sunday that this occurred.
Via text?
Yes, text or in person, or, you know, and I don't think that they absolutely knew what to do with the information, didn't want to get them upset.
These are young students.
Yeah, young students, and, you know, for them, I don't want another family or another person to have that sort of burden on them. And so Safe to Tell is a new program that the Attorney General's office has put together, and it's a text program for students in schools, and they're in the midst of rolling this out. And in November, I got my first report, and they're actually making, for not even rolling out to the entire state of school systems, 14 depression submissions, 4 depression or suicide, 14 suicide submissions, and 4 depression submissions from students anonymously, you know, saying, hey, there may be a problem with this individual, please look at it, and helps them and maybe save a life, because I really think if that had been available, I think Connor may be here, you know. So.
But your message is, I think, that if you know something,
say something.
Say something to someone.
Yeah.
You told me earlier that things haven't gotten easier.
No.
For you. How are you trying to cope?
I you know, I cry a lot. I think a lot, you know, and I'm working really hard to push beyond this. It has, I think the reality is setting in, and I think I personally have been so busy trying to keep the family together, worried about other people, worried about, you know, just keeping things afloat, that it's beginning to get, but I'm getting help for that, and I hope that things will eventually, it'll never be the same.
Let's talk about that help for just a moment. Connor also had received some help, but help available in Wyoming isn't the same everywhere, and you've come to learn that.
Right.
And in fact, maybe even a little more difficult now with budgets as they are. What have you learned about mental health services in Wyoming?
I've learned how critical they are. I mean, these are life and death decisions with money that we're making with this. And, you know, our veterans are in critical need of mental health help. When Connor was needed help, we thought that it was for a girlfriend breakup, and we couldn't even find a bed in Wyoming for him to go to a year prior to this. We had to send him to Colorado to get that help. And parents, I think education for parents in a situation not knowing what to do and scared, there needs to be resources for parents to know where to go when they have this situation with their child as well, because it's overwhelming. You know, you just don't know where in the system or what to do. So I think there needs to be some parent resources out there to help them know what to do.
On our screen right now, we're scrolling the National Suicide Prevention Helpline. Your advice to them would be call.
Call.
And this is whether you're a family member, a friend, or even the person who is contemplating suicide.
Right, call or go to the ER. That's what I have been telling, you know, if you don't know what to do, take them to the ER. You know, help them, give them a place to go and just help them. But the suicide prevention line is so critical to helping save lives as well.
You and your husband have 3 remaining children. How are they doing? How are they doing?
Surprisingly well. They're doing really well. I'm very proud of them. Very proud of
One
how.
is a teenager still at home.
15, well 16 now, just turned 16, and got his driver's license. And there are moments when you want that big brother there, and or your little brother, because it was Morgan's small brother, smaller. It's a hole. It leaves a hole in
Is
your
there help
family.
available for them also?
Yes.
And what is that help?
Right after this happened, I immediately got us into grief counseling, right after it happened, so we know what to expect, and everything, and then got Wyatt into counseling because I was really worried about him, and grief counseling. My daughter Morgan each child is different, didn't see the need to do that. Feels as if she's handling it on her own and is doing fine, has friends and a support system around her, and she seems to be doing as well as what anyone would expect.
You've made the decision to talk about this. Has that been helpful to your children? Do they also find therapy or a solace in talking about it too? Is that advice you would give to other siblings who have experienced what they've experienced?
I would encourage talk. I think I talk more to them than they talk to me, as far as about what I'm feeling and things of that nature. And but we talk about Connor with good memories. Do you remember the time? And I'm sure we'll do that this weekend. Saturday is his birthday. First birthday, he would have been 18, a senior. He was scheduled to graduate this December. He was graduating early, and we were talking about, would he go to Northwest College or would he get a job? And so it'll be, I'm sure we'll probably go to Granny's restaurant as a family, because that was the tradition we had, as my husband would always take the birthday girl or the birthday boy to Granny's for breakfast. So I am thinking maybe we'll just all go to Granny's as a family. We may sit there and cry, and the waitress will be wondering what's wrong with this family, but it'll mean something. So.
Well, Auditor Cloud, I really sincerely believe it's courageous for you to be willing to talk about this.
Thank you.
And I know that our viewers do as well. Our thoughts are with you. Congratulations on your re-election.
Oh, thank you.
And your continued service to Wyoming. And thank you so much for joining us on Wyoming Chronicle.